Yo, what's up? Today, I wanted to talk about Minecraft's game progression. I feel like you can reach a point in Minecraft survival where you technically beat the game, and the only thing that there is left to do is to build things. And I like building, but I think the end game lacks other content. Most of the adventure features are really only seen early game. Adding more mobs and bosses to fight would help, along with structures to loot and weapons to obtain. But I also think the core game progression of Minecraft could be reworked. Right now, the game is just very linear. It's basically about getting to the nether, finding a fortress, getting blaze rods, and then you get ender pearls. Once you've done this, you essentially have what's a key to the last boss in Dimension. I just think there's a lot of missed opportunities, and Mojang should almost force players to explore more structures in order to get to the end. This could easily be implemented by adding another item to the Eye of Ender crafting recipe. For example, if they added a breeze rod to the recipe, it would force you to go to a trial chamber before entering the end. And a change like this would stay true to the core mechanics of Minecraft, while also forcing the player to utilize more of their world before easily beating the game. And you could add more and more items to the recipe, in turn, more structures that you would have to explore. But if they go overboard, players might find that it's a little too repetitive or grindy. Plus, this really only prolongs the time that it takes to get to the end and obtain Elytra. And if there ever is an end update, I hope the difficulty of the mobs there is actually scaled properly. Because once you get a full set of protection, whatever you want, netherite armor, you're basically just like immune unless it's to stuff like the Warden. Also, what if the local difficulty just never capped, and eventually all the mobs that could spawn with tools and armor just always spawn with them, making them a little more difficult since eventually in the end game everything is just one-shottable. Of course, not all mobs are one-shottable unless you're using something like the mace, but I'm talking about with like a sharpness 5 or smite 5 axe. But again, if there's ever an end update, I hope the new hostile mobs get an increase in their difficulty, but nothing too crazy that requires a potion of the Turtle Master or some cheese method. I just mean something where the hostile mobs have more innate health or armor points. Now, in terms of the new terrain and structure generation in the end, there is a lot that Mojang could do to extend Minecraft's game progression and adventure elements. The addition of new biomes and structures added to the end could be implemented in a way where the adventure aspects of Minecraft still continue. One of these new structures could contain loot that is a key item necessary for entering the Skulk dimension, perhaps. Something like this would give more of an incentive to explore the end, especially if the last boss was in a new dimension that required you to go to the end first. Though a change like this would no longer make the end the final dimension. Which is why I started thinking, what would the route be to beat the game if Mojang added the Skulk or even Aether dimensions to Minecraft? Because in order to reach whichever dimension is the last one, I think you should have to go to every other dimension. Mojang shouldn't just add another dimension for the sake of doing so. It should actually be integrated into Minecraft's game progression and what's required to beat the game. Here's an example of a route that players would have to travel to beat the game if Minecraft were to add a new dimension like the Aether. I think something like this would really improve the pacing of the game. It would require you to do a lot more, and then even after this, you could go to the ancient city, and then go to the Skulk dimension. I don't know. I think a game revamp like this still feels relatively vanilla, and would just make the game better. This would also allow a lot more replayability options for just a regular Minecraft run. It would enhance the game, and that's why I think Minecraft needs more than just an end update. They need to add more dimensions to the game. Like if they added the Aether and made it a prerequisite to the end, then upcoming features like the Happy Gas would likely become a viable part of Minecraft's core game progression. because now you'd have to travel to the Nether for blaze rods, glowstone for an aether portal, and a happy gas for travel if you'd like. And then from here you would enter the aether, in order to require something like aether rods for aether dust that would be used in the Eye of Ender recipe. Again, I just think a new route such as this is good game design, and that it would really improve the adventure features and add to the lore of Minecraft. It would also force the player to traverse a lot more of their world in order to reach the end.